Ohio has a rich history rooted in aviation. From those first steps by brothers from Dayton to the giant leap by a man from Wapakoneta, Ohio has helped write the book of American aviation. A group in Port Clinton, Ohio, is determined to keep a particular chapter of that heritage alive.
The organization building this aircraft is EA Chapter 1247, Port Clinton, Ohio. And I'm one of several dozen volunteers working on the restoration of this Ford trimotor.
Well, the foundation, as you know, is here to develop, build, complete the Ford and create a museum around it and preserve the history of the Ford Trimotor's operation in the Lake Erie Islands.
The Ford Trimotor was a rugged, simple aircraft, first built in 1926. Henry Ford and several investors produced almost 200 of the reliable aircraft, flying worldwide as a passenger and freight hauler. This first all-metal aircraft found a home and important niche here in Northwest Ohio.
There was a small and isolated population out on each of the islands, and of course these folks required transportation to and from the mainland for any number of reasons. Literally, people lived on the mainland and would use the trimotor, get on the trimotor 5 days a week and fly over to Middle Bass. It was their form of transportation to and from work every day. The children that lived out on the Bass Islands would go to the Put-in-Bay School, but in order to get to the Put-in-Bay School, they'd get on the Ford trimotor and fly over to South Bass Island and go to school, and when school was over, they'd go back home in the Ford trimotor. In addition to that, it served lots of people that were out here vacationing during the summer months. So it really was sort of an air bridge, if you will, a vital form of transportation for those folks that lived on the island.
Against this historic backdrop, a group of aviation enthusiasts started on a dream: to return a trimotor to Northwest Ohio. This was made possible in large part by an unbelievable gift.
It really started with a chance meeting with a gentleman by the name of Maurice Hovius. And as a result of that, Maurice made an offer to our group that was unheard of.
I found a place, Port Clinton, where it was, for years, it was essential to the people on the mainland and the people on the islands. And that's the sort of thing that makes the hair raise up on the back of my neck, because I'm interested in that kind of history.
He suggested that if our volunteer group would provide the labor to build a flying Ford, he would provide the expertise, the fixtures, and almost all of the raw material. We accepted the offer, and from there, several months later, a truck pulled up with some of the fixtures that you see here. We knew that this gentleman's offer was for real. And from there on, it's just been working, putting this thing together, piece by piece. It's going to fly. When we talked to Maurice, he did not want to build a static museum aircraft. He wanted an airplane that would fly, one that we could demonstrate to the public the value of this historic artifact to the public, and bring back some of the romance and some of the understanding of how air transport started. And this really is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It is an enormous project, and we've been told there has never been another attempt in the United States to start from scratch, not to restore something that's already built. This thing is very large, and there are thousands and thousands of rivets, thousands of holes to be drilled, thousands of holes to be deburred. All the parts have to be painted. It is so big that you only work on a little piece of it at a time. Something about eating an elephant a bite at a time. That's really what this is all about.
Having a museum is one thing. These EAA members are taking on the daunting task of making their Ford Tri-Motor flyable.
Well, it's like looking at the steam locomotive at Greenfield Village. It's static, it makes no noise, nothing coming out of the stack. The same with an airplane. Obviously you can visualize what it must be like, but it's very different than being in the airplane, taking off, seeing this lift off from the ground almost like a magic carpet, because the takeoff distance is very slow, deliberate, and it just rises. And everybody who flies it, when they get off, will have a big smile on their face. So it's something that has to be experienced.
When you fly in a Ford Tri-Motor or you walk around one, you're actually stepping back in time. And I think it's important historically in all of our endeavors that we have access to the past. And what we're doing here is a very, very special thing.
It touched so many people's lives from the time they were, say, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old to the retired old people today. They still come to me and look at the airplanes that we're restoring, and they cry because the airplane meant so much to them in their lifetime.
The volunteers have given their precious time and expertise to the Tri-Motor project. There is just one missing component to make her fly.
This project needs funding. We have really dedicated volunteers who are building it, but it needs a funding program to complete it in a time certain. There's no question that the airplane will be completed, but we want to accelerate that and not take another generation before we fly it. My personal feeling is 3 years from now, we're going to be flying.
The attraction is to get folks to sort of come around to the notion that this kind of thing has to be preserved, because it's a slice of Americana that if it isn't preserved, it goes away.
A donor, a supporter of this project will get a return that he'll always see, or she will always see this airplane flying. They'll know where their money is. They'll know that they played an important role that will outlast them and their survivors. They brought a Ford Tri-Motor back. It's priceless. You have to build one because they belong here in Port Clinton. And it's only right that a Ford Tri-Motor come home. And this is home. They were here forever.